Hello, welcome to the CCAA National Championships Countdown. I'm your host, Cameron Bowers, with my awesome panel, Kevin Ferreira, Liam Dunlop, and Masud Nazar. We're here on day 2 of these thrilling championships, and we might as well just start diving in right now, guys. We've got Holland versus Medhat in our first bracket, with Holland taking a really large victory there, I think. Like, it was our biggest lead by all.
Yeah, by far. It was a huge game for Holland, and no surprise to us, really. Number 1 seed versus number 8 seed. Holland Hurricanes coming out on top. All their key players delivered, and including their bench, getting 29 points off the bench compared to Medicine Hat's 14. Just an all-around good game for the Holland Hurricanes.
Yeah, definitely the player of the game was Chase Bowden. 6 for 10 shooting, 16 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 blocks, 2 steals. That's a stat stuffer, guys. Like, that's how you play basketball. Yeah. You got to get everywhere on the positives on the stat sheet.
You could see his intensity too after every single one of those blocks, every one of those points, you know, just diving on the floor, getting the ball, and you could see his face a little frowny. And DJ Wright too, give a shout out to him. The man actually did his thing. It was a great compliment to Chase Bowden. He had to do what he had to do. But you know, one thing I really noticed with Medicine Hat is that even though they came out strong in that first quarter, they really didn't keep that going throughout the rest of the game. You know, we said it during the first half, you know, it was a tale of 2 quarters, you know, with Holland coming out scoring 22 points to Medicine's Hat 8. So good on Holland for them.
Yeah, I talked to DJ Wright after the game, and he had a full ice pack around his knee because we could tell during the game he was limping on that knee.
Yeah.
He is an older guy, 28 years old. So I asked him, "Are you gonna be okay for the next game?" And he's like, "Yeah, man, don't even worry about it. I just need to rest it up. I just need to ice it up, and I'll be fine, ready to go tomorrow."
Perfect.
Yeah.
Is there anything you think that Medhat can do differently if they're going to continue on in this tournament?
I'm not 100% sure. I mean, all their bigs pretty much delivered in that game, but it just wasn't enough to overcome what Holland Hurricanes were coming at them with. All their bigs delivered, as you said, Liam, and I don't know how much more Medicine Hat can do, to be honest.
Yeah, Medicine Hat, they didn't shoot a very good clip. They only shot 32%, but they allowed 46% shooting from the floor. So I think defensive intensity will have to help out. What do you think, Masud?
Yeah, 100%. I felt like their guards, other than Michael Ferreira, who's probably the most aggressive guard on their team, whether it's on the ball and on offense as well. He was the only guard on their team that was actually taking it to the Holland squad. And I mean, as long as they can keep probably that up, that's probably their only chance to maybe get a bronze or possibly a silver in the next couple rounds.
Okay, well, not too bad. Moving on to the second bracket where we had Humber versus Langara, with Humber taking the lead there.
Called it.
Yeah, you did, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, me and Masud picked Langara, the defending champions from last year, on that one, but of course they lost that game. It was a close game though, but Langara just didn't look like a championship team in that game. Humber really came out on top and pulled through.
Yeah, Humber shot 48% from the floor, and they were just relentless, and they just kept going. Vule Grujic was too big, 6'10" out of Serbia. He was 7 of 13 shooting, 16 points, 8 boards, and he was just way too big for Langara to handle.
And when we saw Tyrone Dixon go out in that third quarter, you can see him come out and actually step up and do his thing. And so he pretty much took over that spot. And that's the one thing with Humber. They have so many bigs they can rely on. They can just put them in the game and they can do what they can. You know, they had Chad Bewley, Edgem, obviously Grujic, and Dixon all together. And the one thing I want to say is that Langara came out very flat-footed in that first half, and that pretty much killed them for the rest of the game. They started to make more of a run in the fourth quarter, but it was way too late. They had no chance by the end.
Yeah, Humber has a very deep bench, getting 27 points off the bench compared to Langara's 12. And we were talking about yesterday how deep the bench for Langara is, the veterans that are on that team. And we were also talking about Brody Gregg, the loss that they had, the huge player that they had going for them last year. Lost him this year. He was a veteran on that team. But they still had 6 fifth-years on that team, but that didn't really help them out either. They just didn't have what they had last year in that game.
One bright spot for Langara was Glenn Ruby, a quiet player. We never really talked about him going into the game. 12 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. So he was, whether he was scoring, getting on the boards, or passing it off, he was doing everything for Langara.
Yeah, but again, it was probably throughout more of the second half that he was trying to get that done, and I feel like he didn't give enough. You know, outside of maybe Lindgren, their other starting point guard there, he was pretty much kind of pushing the floor and all that. But I mean, other than, there wasn't really much Humber could do. Well, Humber did everything they could do to actually win that game.
Awesome. So later today, we're going to see Humber versus Holland. So any predictions here? Like, these are 2 pretty strong teams for what we've seen so far.
True. As far as the prediction, that's a tough one. I mean, they both played so well yesterday. I would ride the fence, but if I have to pick one, I'm going to go with the number 1 seed Holland Hurricanes in that one. As much as I want to see a Mohawk-Humber final in the end, I have to go with Holland here. I think they played a little better yesterday than Humber.
I agree. I'll pick Holland as well. But if I think they have to go into Vule Grujic. I'll say it again. He is so big. And I don't think Holland has a big man that can really keep up with him. So if they keep riding him inside and he can keep going to the line and getting those easy layups because he's so big and long, Humber might take it, but I'm going with Holland.
I mean, Holland, I feel like it all kind of revolves around Chase Bowden. Now, it depends on the kind of game he has and how he affects them and how Humber guards him more than anything. I mean, he was best all-around player yesterday. He did everything on the stat sheet. So, I mean, and also, if you notice in the second half of that game with Holland, he didn't do much in that
quiet.
second. Yeah, very, very quiet. And I mean, but they still won the game, which is awesome. You might have to do a full 48-minute effort if you want to win that game.
Great point. We're going to go look at a package made for Andrew Cicatini, the player of the game last night between Champlain and Mohawk.
Today, we're taking a look at starting power forward Andrew Cicatini.
Andrew Cicatini with that big dunk, starting it off early for the Mountaineers.
My name's Andrew Cicatini. I play power forward for Mohawk Mountaineers. What got me into basketball was I guess I was always the tallest in the class, and the coaches wanted me to come out, and I was always good at it in gym class, and I guess 10 years later, here I am. I've been just playing ever since.
Andrew is a hard-working player and knows his role in order to help the team win.
Rebounding, I guess, is my best strength. I like doing all the dirty work for the team, anything to help. Rebounding's always key, and anything else, any more baskets I can get is always an addition.
Andrew isn't the only Cicatini on the team, as he is playing his last year with his younger brother, Matt.
He doesn't get too much time, but he is a good player, great practice player, always works hard, always very competitive to play against in practice, and really good locker room guy as well.
The team has a lot of strengths, but the most notable one is the chemistry.
We're all really good friends off court. We enjoy each other. There's not a bad guy in the team.
Mohawk Mountaineers have one goal in mind in the upcoming national tournament.
Take home gold. Yeah, we have a week and a half of practice. We're going to come in, work hard like we've been doing all year, and hopefully take home the gold.
We wish Andrew Cicatini the best of luck at the upcoming tournament.
Welcome back. We're just going to take this time to dive right into our next bracket, where we've got the VIU versus the Kodiaks, where the VIU came out on top here. I don't think there was any surprises here with that one, right?
Yeah, we all kind of predicted that one. It was pretty much a close game like we predicted, but VIU coming out on top. A huge thing, though, for both teams was the three-point game was not so hot for either of them.
Yeah, they didn't play well at all. They shot combined 3 for 38, and that's not good enough. But my big guy of the game was Jared Dorby. 8 offensive rebounds, so 14 total rebounds with 18 points, and he was just a menace on the offensive glass. They didn't have a guy that could box him out, so he was just getting there. He was getting him back and finishing him hard at the paint.
Yeah, not only that, even though they weren't shooting well at the three-point line, all their points were from the twos, and you can credit Justin King, who had 1/3 of their team's points, 26 points for him. Even though he came out a little flat-footed and not so much, really inconsistent in that first half, but he really took over in that fourth quarter, pretty much put him over the top for VIU.
Another huge difference in this game that I noticed was the free throw points, and that seemed to be a consistent thing that happened in every game that was a big difference maker. But VIU getting the advantage there, 21 points compared to Lethbridge's 4. You got to capitalize on those free-point opportunities, or else they're going to bite you in the butt in the end.
Yeah, the one bright side for Lethbridge, though, was Chad Johnson. We were talking about that during the game. 14 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 5 steals. And every time he seemed to get the ball, he had sticky hands. He'd grab it with one hand, bring it all the way up, and just a nice little layup in, and it was just great to see for Lethbridge.
And a good compliment to him was Travis Butt, too. Don't forget him. I mean, he had 15 points for him, and he got hit in the nose really hard.
Bleeding.
Came back and hit that three-pointer that pretty much put him within one. So, I mean, give credit to Lethbridge. They really pretty much came out and did what they had to do, but they just couldn't get the W that night.
There's got to be something the Kodiaks can do better tonight, though. Like, what do you think?
They have to have more of an all-around game, and they got to start hitting their threes. They were less than 10% from 3 less than 10% from three. That's like me when I played basketball. And that's not good enough. You cannot do that. Especially when you're in the CCAA national tournament, you have to hit your three-pointers because three-pointers are valuable.
Yeah, when I spoke to the coach at halftime, what he was telling me is that this is how we play. This is consistently how we play all the time. So, I mean, if they can keep what they did, exactly the way they played against VIU, but keep it consistent throughout all 4 quarters, they have a really good chance of at least getting a bronze or potentially a silver in this tournament.
Okay, very cool. Let's slide on down to the 4th bracket, though, where we had our home team, Mohawk Mountaineers, versus the Champlain Cavs. So this was a really tight game. Like, how do you think it was done overall?
It was a tight game, but before we even get into that, I kind of want to talk about the atmosphere of the game. That was crazy. I've never seen the D-Bark Center that crazy before and that full. It was insane. I was in the truck, personally, watching it kind of as a viewer, making a few calls here and there. But as a viewer, it was so good to watch. I mean, I was in the truck, of course, outside the gym, and I could feel the energy when they were stomping their feet and chanting, "Let's go Mohawk." That was just an awesome moment for me.
Sometimes during the whole game, me and Masud would just lift up our headsets and just allow the viewers to realize how loud it was truly.
Yeah.
We could barely hear each other talking to each other, and we were right beside each other.
Yeah, I usually, with my headsets, I usually put the one of them up.
Yeah.
It's just so I could hear Liam a lot closer, and I couldn't do it. I had to put it down just so I could hear the full thing, and it was absolutely crazy. So yeah, but he is right. We did have to do that. And one thing I want to say about Mohawk is even though they were pretty much favorites to win that game, Champlain did what they had to do. I mean, they pretty much gave them all they could handle that entire game, all the way up to the final buzzer.
The one thing Mohawk really has to work on is boxing out. Umar, he had 5 offensive rebounds to go with 14 total rebounds, and he was a menace. He was always there, and Sikatini, Dowhanic, and Fennell just couldn't get around him. He was just so active in the paint, always getting offensive rebounds, and he was smart when he got them. He wouldn't always go up. He'd always dish it out to one of the shooters, and they would usually hit.
Yeah, and the one thing, a part of the reason I think the game was as close as it was is because we usually had Taylor Dowhanic. He's usually the difference maker.
Yeah.
He's usually the guy getting those rebounds, deflecting shots and altering shots. He wasn't really seen. I mean, 4 points with less than 6 rebounds, and he had 3 block shots, which is pretty much usual with him. But I mean, he's usually a much more impactful player than that.
Yeah, and like I reiterated in the past few games that we were talking about, those free throw opportunities, it kind of burned Mohawk in the first 2 quarters. I mean, I was noticing that they were missing a lot of those free-point shots, which I knew later on. I was thinking, no, that might burn you in the end, and it nearly did. But they really paid off for them in the end, especially Sikatini. He always seemed to be getting the drawn foul, going 100% from the free throw line, which was a huge help for Mohawk, especially securing that win and getting that game-winning rebound at the end, holding that ball for the final few seconds, which was huge for Mohawk.
The one thing we really were incorrect about yesterday was we thought Mohawk's bench would take over.
No.
They got outscored 38-6,
Huge.
and that was crazy for the Cavaliers. They just, when their bench players came on, they came on with a spark of energy, and they just took over, and they outscored them by 32 points, and that almost made the difference for the Cavaliers.
You could see O.J. Watson coming off the bench. He was really frustrated and getting that technical foul. He had a couple turnovers, 1 point in the game. I mean, part of it was him, Patrick Ivoroni too, pretty much scoreless throughout the game. You didn't see him do much. So, I mean, those are the 2 guys that usually come off the bench and actually make a difference. And nowhere to be found in the game.
Including Lamar Barr too. That was one other guy that I noticed. He's been having a really good run with the Mountaineers, especially the last few games, being a big difference maker, especially in the finals of provincials. But last night, getting into foul trouble, getting 4 fouls and late in the 4th quarter, and he was playing good ball. Like, he was doing a lot of things for the Mohawk team, getting those steals, getting the turnovers, capitalizing on them, getting the fast break down the court, and he had to take a seat because he was in foul trouble, and that's something that Mohawk needs to work on tonight.
Yeah, part of the other reason for that is because the refs were holding a tight whistle throughout most of that game. It was really tough to find a consistent whistle for either side. I mean, both teams, I lost track of how many out of bounds plays and fouls called, whether it's offenses, charges. They couldn't tell if it was a block or charge. I couldn't tell anymore. I mean, at that point, you're just I think that's part of the reason why they might have had a bad game. But if the refs play a little bit looser, I think they'll do better.
So do you guys feel that they can take the next game for the semis with more than just a 2-point lead?
I feel like if they work on everything that we just talked about here, the fouls and everything, I think Mohawk has a good chance, but they're facing off a really good team.
Yeah, VIU's much better than Champlain. So, yeah, exactly what Kevin said. They have to work on everything we were talking about. They have to score more than 77 points, 79 points. They have to get over that 100 mark, because when they get over that 100 mark, they're more likely to win the game.
Yeah, in terms of predictions, I'll go out on a limb and say I think they're going to win, and at least by 10 points too against the VIU squad, without a doubt.
There you go. Okay. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Come back tomorrow. We'll be talking about the predictions for the gold and silver, as well as what happened later tonight for today. Make sure you check out mLink, where Masud and Liam will be commentating like normally on their games. And we can't wait to see you tomorrow. Have a great day.